Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show, Jack Chow with GNE TV. For many times, whenever there is a moment, we try to inform you about California. California is a beautiful state, no problem, no question about that. But how beautiful is a question. And still more question is that is California, the same as we talk about years ago, or 5, 4, 3, 2 years ago? No, that's the answer. All right. Just how bad California is having its hard time, I have my good friend, Marianne Maloney. She is the regional director of CALA, California Citizen Against Law Abuse, here to share with you about the newest release of our California. It sounds like a diagnostic thing to me, but it caused me lots of surprise to read the numbers. So, to my friend Marianne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for always having us come on and share the story about why we need to change the legal system here in California.
Very good. Say something about CALA, please.
Well, CALA, we're the only grassroots movement pushing for legal reform here in California. We have about 50,000 supporters, most of whom are small business owners and some nonprofits and concerned citizens that believe California needs to change its legal environment so California businesses can be in business and grow their business and be the job creators they were meant to be.
All right. I have no problem. Sometimes they have some argument over some political issues. But the thing is that when you started to see things going to almost hilarious, then you really start to feel that you have a problem, a big problem. I have this one, which is a new release about the year, the past 1 year, and there are, once again, California is ranked second to the bottom. Out of 50 states, we are 49. We're 49er. All right, good. Okay. So for that, I will have my friend Marianne Maloney to tell you the statistics about the last year. How come we are the the bottom second of the whole nation? Please.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for inviting me to be here today to let your viewers know that California was just ranked the second highest judicial hellhole in the country.
For the second year in a row?
Second year in a row.
All right, good.
And that's mostly because 859 bills were signed into law this year by the governor and legislators. Most of them are going to expand civil liability and make it harder for business to be in business because they have to be in compliance with more things. And if they're not in compliance, well, you know what that means. They're set up for a lawsuit. So CALA, we put on these small business summits up and down the state, and we hear from business owners. And one business owner shared how some of his employees come in at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. They all like to have lunch with their friends. But the state of California says that they have to have lunch by the 5th hour. So one of the employees went and filed a claim. So once they file a claim, an attorney can go in and scour the payroll records, looking for technical violations. So because the employees couldn't have lunch when they wanted to have lunch, even though everybody was happy, it cost the employer $1 million settlement. Now this just doesn't happen to business. It's nonprofits, it's children's homes, it's the Salvation Army, it's the Humane Society, it's the United Farm Workers that have been sued by the trial attorneys. And usually those two, the trial attorneys and labor unions, are hand in hand. So the important message for your viewers is that when a company is sued for $10,000 or $1 million, that money has to come from somewhere. And most of the time, that money comes when companies have to reduce costs. And how do they reduce costs? They cut jobs. And how do they raise money to get money for the settlement? They raise prices on goods and services that they sell. So these things really do impact business, workers, and consumers.
And also for the court system to function as a court system, it uses the taxpayers' money.
It uses taxpayers' money. That's right. Because when the courts are used with our judges, our court clerks, it's our taxpayer dollars that has to fund that. And if they're overcrowded, then people who have a legitimate case that needs to be heard, which Kayla wholeheartedly supports, they might not get their day in court, or our taxes may be raised to open more court dates.
And it's everybody's money just gathered for the purpose of quote unquote winning, right? And then who benefits from such cases?
Well, that's what we call the cycle of lawsuit abuse, because the plaintiff's bar benefits from these types of lawsuits, because what they do is they make huge campaign contributions throughout the years to certain legislators to make sure that they will write laws to make it harder for being business, but easier for them to sue. So they are the real beneficiaries of this type of lawsuit abuse, and they want to make sure it keeps going.
It sounds to me a culture, legislative culture. So has anybody raised the question or the concern to a certain level, to a level that we want to recognize that something wrong with the legislative culture?
Well, just last April, California Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse had 150 small business owners go and share their experience with legislators in Sacramento. And they sat down with their area legislator and they let them know how that lawsuit cost them undue harm, cost them a lot of money, the stress on their business, the stress on their family, that did nothing but make money for people who tried to abuse the system for their own gain. You know, an ADA lawsuit, for example, if the blue striping isn't right, the toilet is too low, the mirror too high, the walkway not wide enough, they just go and outright sue anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 per each issue of technical noncompliance. But they never go back and check, did they fix that blue striping?
You're right.
So it's all about the money. It's not really about the access. But there is good news on ADA, and that is that there has been federal legislation that's been introduced by Congressman Ted Poe in Texas, HR 620. And it's going to be good for business as well as the disabled, because business will have 120 days to fix a problem. And by knowing what the problem is, because they'll be presented that, you know, this needs to be fixed, it'll be repaired, and then it'll increase access for the disabled. So we're really excited about it. It's been introduced. We expect it to be taken up again in 2018, and that the president would sign it.
Okay, it's not a, before the president signs as the federal law, will California likely to adopt that?
In the state legislature, well, we do have great bipartisan support from our congressional leaders in Congress supporting the bill. We have on the left Congressman Scott Peters, and on the right Congressman Darrell Issa. We have on the left Jackie Spear up in Sacramento with Tom McClintock up in the northern part of the state. So we have a lot of bipartisan support on the congressional level supporting the federal bill, but we don't really have support in the California legislature to do that.
My dear audience, this sounds such a big chunk of problems that we really have to go one by one, because we never know that we have been swimming in an ocean of problems that is created by our legislature, right? Now, and on this one, you just mentioned that the year of 2017, there have been 859 new laws that were signed into laws, right? And, 859 new bills that have been signed into laws. I just now did a little calculation, and that equals to a 2.35 bills or laws per day, and divided by the number of 40 senators and 80 assemblymen, each of them have to make 7.15 laws. Do they have anything else to do?
They should be reforming the system. They should make laws to undo these
poor guys,
lawsuits.
they're too busy. They're too busy making laws, right? Okay, now, if the laws is made for goodwill, for good purpose, you will see how it forms, right? For example, if you want to make a law to protect this phone, though, and you have the law imposed, and then later somebody check about the phone. Is the phone protected, right? Like the ADA laws, right? You go in the front door, there goes the fine, there goes the payment, goes so ever. And there's never, in the end, anybody come to see if the door fixed, if the sign fixed, anything fixed. So nobody cares about the back end. So that, to me, by logic, exactly indicates the purpose of making the laws. Am I right? Reading the wrong page?
That's right. We need to give our business owners relief from shakedown lawsuits, because to go and to sue somebody for their own personal gain, to be able to take the money, these are gotcha lawsuits, shakedown lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits. Most of them are all issues of technical non-compliance. Do you have the right sign? Did you check the right box? Did your paycheck stub have a beginning date and an ending date? On some of these examples, we have a business owner. I'll never forget this man. We had a press conference on the steps of the state capitol, and he was a little older and kind of hunched back, and his hands were cut and, from hard work, bruised. And he was still shocked when he said it didn't matter that he paid his employees, on time, or that the check cleared the bank. What mattered is that the paycheck stub didn't have a beginning date and an ending date. So he was sued as a class action status for every pay period, for every employee, for 4 years. It cost him tens of thousands of dollars. He left now. He took his business in Bakersfield and moved it to Texas and took his jobs with him.
Good move.
Good move.
That's his survival.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Thank God he survived. Otherwise, he would die. You know Tom Menzel?
Yes.
Tom Menzel, for example, he is exactly the case that you mentioned just now, right? Okay, now, for the 5-hour mark for everybody to eat, I had him on the show one time or twice. I asked him, in Beijing, we have the Beijing duck, right? You know how the duck is fed? On a certain schedule, every 2 or 3 hours, they grab the beak, crack it open, by pressure that goes in the food. They eat the liquid food. Those paste kind of form food. They do it that way, right? And then every 3 hours, like that. We human beings don't eat that way, do we?
No.
5 hours, anybody dying because of not eating at the 5-hour mark? Then why would the law go that way?
Well, this is an example of a good law that's gone bad. It's the Private Attorney General Act, exactly what Mr. Manzo was talking about. The PAGA law. And it was put into law by Governor Schwarzenegger back in 2004. And it was to protect employees from bad employers. Those employers who maybe set up shop.
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you short. Let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue to find out there's not legally, by logic. Logically, things were wrong. That's why I say it is the culture that's wrong. It's the mind that's wrong, right? Okay, so now, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, with me is my good friend, Marianne Maloney. She is the founder and also CEO. She is now holding the regional director for CALA, California Citizen Against Law Abuse, that I have been involved for at least 7-something years, right?
Exactly.
We support that call. We know that only by saving California from frivolous lawsuit would save California. Otherwise, we don't have a California. So stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. You, ladies and gentlemen of Californians, my fellow Californians, should be aware of the fact that California is no longer California. Why? It is because we are hurt. We are hurt by lots of frivolous laws and frivolous lawsuits. Laws, when we say frivolous, we're talking about the fact that when you make a law, you make the laws of no sense, right? Good example, the laws made, signed into laws by Governor Schwarzenegger to protect, quote unquote, protect employees from exploited by
Bad employers.
bad employers, right? How bad?
Well, there are some employers that maybe set up shop and they kind of create jobs and then they disappear, or they pay them hot checks, or they don't pay them at all, or they pay them and it's late.
No, the 5-hour lunch rule, right? So, my only concern is that my only logical concern is that anybody dies. For example, the Amber Alert. The Amber Alert. The name was taken from Amber. Well, she was killed, so on and so forth. There goes the alert, right? And we want to come to prevent the Amber situation from happening again, right? For the 5 hours, is there anybody named Jack dies of eating at 5:30, 5 hours, 30 minutes? So we learn a lesson. We make it a Jack laws. Everybody should eat within 5-hour range.
So this goes back to the cycle of lawsuit abuse and how the plaintiff's attorneys go and write checks to their legislators to make laws that look like they're protecting consumers or protecting employees, but what they really are gotcha lawsuits, because they'll have the technical issues in there that if an employer is not in compliance, regardless if it makes sense or not, then they're sued. We have another, I think you met another gentleman from Long Beach with Tom.
Yeah.
And he explained how
named David.
his employee said, "Hey boss, my son has a soccer game today at 4 o'clock. What do you think if I missed my lunch and I just kind of work through, that way I can, see my kid play soccer?" Work is getting done, so the employer's happy. The employee gets to go, gets to see his son. No harm is done, but the state of California, because of the law, he did not take his lunch break. So then
the law says you should eat.
Right.
Right.
So then he's set up for a big lawsuit. Yes.
So, I had just now with I had been with my friend Bruce Whitaker. We were talking about part of laws also. We feel we created a feeling that our life is interfered by the state legislature step by step, even to the pinpoints about which hour you want to eat. Take my job, for example. I'm happy to eat at 1 o'clock, at 1:30, because I get my job done. I don't want to, during the middle of the show, I call it off to go take lunch, come back, half dizzy, to continue the rest half. No, I wouldn't do that. Logically, it wouldn't work that way. My whole question is that why would a law of the state of California so great, so wonderful, so glorious, would it taste like a 3-year-old?
The California legislature, again, they get these checks from the plaintiff's attorneys writing laws not to make it easier or harder to sue business, but to make it easier to sue business. And they come up with these regulations that trick employers, that trick business, that trick nonprofits, labor unions, humane societies, and others into a gotcha lawsuit.
And also, there's the work comp laws. You're talking about PAGA laws, right? And there's work comp laws. The work comp laws is even terrible, even more terrible, right? Now, we had an employee a long time ago. She would show up, even though schedule says 9 o'clock, she would show up at 10:30, all right? And the moment she shows up, she's tired already.
Oh boy.
Because she's been running from supermarket to supermarket for dog food, right? And then by 12 o'clock, she needs to go for lunch. Lunch includes the lunch for dogs, lunch for cats. She has about 3 cats or 4 dogs, or 4 cats, 3 dogs, and either way, right? And then she will be back around 2:30, and very sleepy, and knock herself down on the table, and had a nap. And then when she wakes up, there will be 5 o'clock or 5:30 something. She started working, and she voluntarily worked till 6:30, whatever, to get job completed or semi-completed. So now, She resigned for no reason whatsoever. And all of a sudden there came a lawsuit, came a complaining that we did not pay her overtime. She called her overtime. I myself have no problem with her. We were close. We were close friends. We were co-workers at least, right? And I have no problem with the fact she needs money. Right? I do have problem. The law calls it legit.
That's right. They put these
For a
laws
person, like I said, exactly as I described, how many hours you tell me she worked for this business? And yes, she claims for overtime. And law says, yes, she deserves it. She needs to be paid overtime. What is the damn law? The law needs to go to hell. That is my take. Whatever I say, my dear friends, represents myself. Neither does it to the show, to the organization, whatsoever. I say go to hell. So this is my feeling. It hurts my feeling. And the good thing is that, even worse, is that it shows a bad example to young people. This is how money is made. See?
Right, yes.
This is how you get rich. Right? At Kayla, do you promote my call to stop setting bad examples to our young people?
Well, absolutely, because to go and to sue a business is not the way to make money. The way that somebody should be today is, they should go in, they should be early, they shouldn't be late, they should do the best they can to hopefully get a promotion and want to, do a good job. Certainly suing the employer to probably make money because they couldn't do anything else is not the way that they should be operating.
And on the other hand, and there are laws saying the 5 hours thing, and plus with the ADA, everybody was scared. Oh, by the way, last time you were here talking about the ADA laws, right? About the signs not blue enough. I get calls.
Oh.
People call me. Hey, Jack, here's the picture of my ADA sign, of disabled sign. Do you think that's blue enough?
Oh my gosh.
They shot a picture with a cell phone. They sent to me because they happen to be friends. They know my number, right? And they say, I said, I'm not making any wrong judge.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not an attorney, not any of them. But to me, it is blue.
Right, yes.
But to me, it's blue.
Right.
So it scares people. So now, when you talk about law, the way we understand that you have a bunch of people living together, right? We call it a community. To make the things in order in the community, you make rules. Each of the rules, as a result, make the community better managed. If the rules that causes a mess in the community, do you still call them good laws?
No, absolutely not. Everybody has to work together. They have to work as a team. And it seems like in a lot of these abusive Private Attorney General Act lawsuits, everybody was happy. The employer's happy, the employee's happy, the business is functioning. It's just that they write these laws to be gotchas.
That reminds me of something, that one discussion that I had with a friend of mine on the show, I forgot who, says that if you really want to answer, you check about each of the legislators about what they do as a business, right? You will find a majority of them are lawyers. Was that a fact or just a exaggeration?
A lot of them are lawyers. A lot of them are staffers that have kind of gone through the ranks, and their legislator that they had worked for was termed out, so they kind of move up, and they're very familiar with the system and how it works. And since lawsuit abuse and not reforming the civil justice system has been entrenched in California because, again, of the cycle of lawsuit abuse and the plaintiff's bar being so strong up there, I think the last election cycle they gave $3 to $5 million to make sure laws were not passed to make it harder, to make it easier to sue business. So yes, a lot of them come.
They have a purpose. They have a target, not to make it easy.
Right, yes.
Right?
Because that's how they're able to go back and say, you've abused.
On the other hand, you have a governor, you have everybody calls for business expansion, calls for economy growth. So they contradict. They contradict. Am I
Right, they
right?
don't do anything to really help the economy grow by putting together all these regulations. And in California, you know, your friend Tom, he and other employers are getting more aggressive because as Amazon, as everybody knows, is trying to expand its operations and open a second headquarters, they went out and they put a full-page ad in USA Today saying, "Dear Amazon, why in the world would you want to ever do business in California? It's the worst place to do business, and mostly because of the private attorney general
Good call,
Act."
good call, good call. You know what Tom says to me? Tom says, I know that I can get this lawsuit settled within $1 million. But I'm such a stubborn head, not head. I'm ready to put $3 million, $3.5 million to fight till the very end.
Yes, California employers led by Tom, Kayla's involved with him. We're getting very aggressive. I'm going to see the legislators to tell them our stories, to tell them about the shakedown lawsuit.
Exactly. That's why he formed an organization called CABIA, California Business
Industry
Alliance or something, right? Called CABIA. And I would say that I only wish there are more Tom Menzel among the business owners. And the majority of business owners, they will compare the loss and the gain and say, okay, all right, I'll bow, I'll capitulate, I'll surrender. Right? So then, by doing so, you get a bad guy, the bad concept, bad people, bad lawyers, bad whatsoever, spoiled. Right? Now, with my good audiences, I really want to let you know that I'm involved. I'm very emotionally involved with this, with a great passion that will probably cultivate California into a better state. With me, for the same purpose, is my good friend, Marianne Maloney. She is the founder and CEO of Kayla. She is now holding the position of Regional Manager, Director of Kayla, California Citizen Against Law Abuse. So stay with us. We'll be right back to see if there's any cure. Action. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Zhao having the glory with my good friend Marianne Maloney, founder and CEO of Kayla of California, and she is the director of a regional district, and she works so hard. I can be a witness of how diligently she worked for this purpose of reforming California legal system.
And you've been there with us.
Thank you very much for recognizing that. And the California legal system, the justice system, is being clogged up. All right, I have a note here saying that, okay, here. According to the National Center for State Courts, more than 820,000 new lawsuits were filed in the state court in 2016. And this year, they are expecting another increase. Right. So, when the legal system, which is already crowded, all of a sudden put in an increase of 820,000 more, most of which are senseless, frivolous, such as the employee, the example I gave you, right? Such as Tom Menzel's case, for somebody not eating within the 5 hours mark, for a doorknob which is lower by 1 inch, for a doorknob which is not a flip-flop, but kind of the turning kind, the spinning kind, for a sign that is not supposed to be blue, not blue enough. So my question is that, do we have anything better to do?
Well, let me just add on to that 820,000 lawsuits that were filed. Those are the number of lawsuits that actually were filed and went to court. They went to trial. Most of them are settled because the cost of litigation is so expensive that people just want to settle to make it go away. And is there any hope? Is there any cure? I want to say yes, because CALA, California Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, and business owners and consumers and workers, employees, did have reform this year in 2017. Jerry Brown in October signed a law by Assemblyman Ed Chow right here in this district in Monterey Park. And
49.
It reformed Proposition 65. And years ago, Prop 65 was an initiative, and it was disguised as a noble cause that would protect our waters from pollutants. Of course, it was written by attorneys. And because of the loopholes in the law, and over time, they created a cottage industry to make money for themselves. So for $50, a plaintiff could go and test an organic product, a tea or something grown from the soil, because there's lead in the soil already. And it would test for very minute level of lead. So because of that, they would go and sue the defendant, forcing the defendant to spend thousands of dollars hiring attorneys, hiring consultants to figure out, why am I being sued? Well, now the plaintiffs have to present what they call a certificate of merit that will list out the reasons why they think they're not in compliance. And because of that, they'll also have to have the Attorney General review that certificate. So we believe that Prop 65 lawsuits will reduce by about 25%.
I have a recommendation. Why don't we make it that we allow everybody a time period for correction? Give them 60 days, 90 days, or 120 days for correction. At the end of the correction, come somebody to inspect. If yes, okay, right? If no, that goes penalty whatsoever, a lawsuit, or even go to jail. How about that?
Absolutely. We wholeheartedly support the right to cure. If somebody is not in complete compliance with the ADA, as you're saying, they don't have the right sign, give them 60 days, 120 days, 30 days to go and fix the problem before you outright sue. And if they're not responding and doing it, well, then maybe that's the reason why that you have to take...
For a sign that is not blue enough, that takes no more than a week.
That's
or
right.
Or 2 days.
Right.
Right?
And a $50 sign is certainly a lot easier to get.
For a doorknob, takes no more than 2 hours.
Right. We could all run down to the hardware store.
Go to Home Depot, get one, and put it back on. That's it.
Yeah. Instead of being hit with a $2,000 or a $4,000 issue of technical non-compliance.
Once you hit, you're not hitting the business owner only. You're hitting economy.
That's right.
California economy.
And jobs, because if the small business doesn't have that $4,000, a lot of them, the business supports the family, pays their rent, pays for their house, sends the kids to school, buys the food. Well, if you're hitting them at the $4,000 and they might not have it, that could wipe out the business.
You were saying that there is the bill that the President Donald Trump will probably sign to allow 120 days?
Yes, it's H.R. 620, sponsored by Congressman Ted Poe in Texas.
H.R. 620.
Yes. And we're real optimistic about it because we feel that it's a win-win for business and it's a win-win for the disabled community because it'll increase access. Once a business knows you have to present the business, the problem that you had with access, and they fix it, then it'll be better. But the problem with the ADA, as you know, over all these years, is there's been so many federal laws, so many state laws, nobody really knows what to do to be in complete compliance. And the second you're in complete compliance, they're already making up new rules because of our cycle of lawsuits.
How long has it been there waiting for a signature?
It was just introduced. So that means it has to go through the process.
And in how long, estimated?
Sometime between now and the 2018 election cycle.
I see, all right. At least finally we got something to hold on to.
Right, to be very hopeful.
There is a hope there. In other words, these guys who want to create lawsuits, go ahead, rush up, right?
Yeah,
otherwise, you're late.
Right.
There won't be your money, right?
Because in California, even though there's been reforms, the last one, SB 269 by Senator Richard Roth, they would have fixed the laws that if you sued somebody in state court, because it was a California bill, well, what they do to get around that, they just go across the street and file in federal court. So no matter what the reforms were that they were supposed to do by the state law, they get around it and go back to their bad actions and sue in federal court. So the federal court would just wipe it all out, make a level playing field, and we're very optimistic.
Do we have any statistics of all the 50 states within a year, how many bills everybody has made?
I don't know.
I think if we go search, we'll find out.
Okay.
Right? And my audience is, if you would have that interest, go ahead, do the homework, do the research, and find out. I believe California makes the most laws, right?
Right.
Okay, very good. My dear audience, today with me is my good friend, Marianne Maloney. We go back many, many years. I adore her for her guts of fighting for what's right. And not only she sees right, we believe it is right to protect California business owners or business, because small business, especially small business, is the backbone of our economy. The whole nation, the whole California relied upon, right? So if you kill your small business, like those businesses, even though not to kill, but run for some other states, Texas, Arizona, they're always waving their hands at us. Hey, Californians, you come back here. You come check us.
Right.
We give you a tax deduction. We give you a better environment. We give you better laws, something like that. People, yeah, go ahead.
And we don't set them up for legal shakedowns either, right?
Yeah.
It's a fair competitive system where here we set them up with, regulations that if they don't meet that regulation, they're outright sued. They don't do that in Texas. They don't do that in other states.
Let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue finding more. Stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West with the G&E TV. Today I'm having some good time because finally we got a chance to feel a little better about the frivolous lawsuits that have been clogging our legal system, justice system. There is a HR 620 being signed as we speak, who knows where or when, but more likely will happen, that will allow business owners some correction time, 120 days, so to speak, when there is a violation of the ADA laws, which will help the situation a lot. Today with me sharing this and also some problems that needs more resolution to take care of, to tackle, is my good friend, Marianne Maloney. She is a wonderful woman. She is a fighter in my eye. She is not only beautiful, smart, but she's brave. She has the guts. We go back at least 7-8 years for that very early day. And she is the regional director for CALA. CALA stands for California Citizen Against Law Abuse. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for all the good work so far. Keep it up, please.
Well, thank you for being there with us and all you do for Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse and for your viewers and giving them the information so they can be up to date on these important issues. So go back and check to see if they have the blue sign.
We're like-minded.
That's right, yes.
We're like-minded,
yes.
Right? Okay. Now, there are good things to hold on to, HR 620, and there are still bad things to get angry about. I did get angry. I'm still angry about those laws on which does not even have a logic ground. It doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, now, for that, I may feel free or have the freedom to check with you if it is possible of doing so. Whoever among the 120 of them, the legislators, whoever proposed the senseless bill, you motivated the audiences, the constituents, to check their records about who created those crazy ideas to form those funny bills, which later on pass into laws. or even before they pass the laws, well, we send them a letter and say, hey, stop writing those funny things. Can we do that from?
Yeah, I think that is just the best idea going, that our viewers out there start to get involved themselves. They can either get involved with Kayla, they can go to our website, www.cala.com. We encourage you to. You'll be up to date on important issues, to support, to oppose, come to our free events, meet with legislators. But as you're reading the paper, as you're about town, in your own local community, you'll see your assemblyman, you'll see your city councilman, you'll see your state senator. Ask them where they stand on civil justice reform. Watch what they're doing. Are they sponsoring these crazy bills that impact business and impact jobs? It's not just business that gets impacted, it's nonprofits, it's the Salvation Army, it's children's homes, it's the dog pound, it's everybody.
You're right, yeah.
You know, but watch what they're doing and how they're voting, and if they do not support business, support civil justice reform, then vote for those legislators who do. It's time we take action and take it back on our own.
I really wish. I believe there are all kinds of organizations, nonprofit organizations. I still wish there should be one, or let's be one. Altogether, they check the record of each of the legislatures about not only their voting record, their bill record, bill drafting record. Okay. To be aware of, okay, Assemblyman A, be on alert. He created a bill as such. And then he will receive letters, a call, say, stop doing the nonsense, so we won't follow you, something like that. In other words, like doctors, you have always two ways to a doctor. Doctor first use prevention, then the cure, right? Prevention always comes first. So let's do some prevention. When those guys pop up with something like that funny, like for example, the third bathroom law, right? Would have killed before birth.
Right, get involved right when they introduce it and get it killed right off the bat. That's the best way to do it, that before it moves forward, before it moves momentum, and it could possibly get signed. It's just
now you have Kayla. I have nobody else to rely upon but Kayla. Would Kayla create a window of that? Keep a track record for, and not only their voting record, but their billing record, their creativity records.
We do keep track of all the different pieces of legislation that is introduced every legislative cycle. We oppose certain pieces of legislation. We encourage your viewers to get involved in Kayla. We encourage our supporters to take part, to support and oppose this legislation, and to kill it before it moves any further.
All right. Not only that, there are more funny laws that doesn't make any sense. Right? For example, the gasoline tax laws, right? I don't think that makes any sense when Californians already tax the bonds. We're also almost strangled. Another 73 cents put on top of every gallon of gasoline. Why would Californians just keep silent?
Well, that was put into law by the governor and the legislature. The voters were never really asked what they wanted to do on that tax.
And then go to court. If we have time to go to court with 820,000 law cases, this is the biggest one.
That's the one to go to court for. That's right. That's a legitimate case.
Yeah, it's that's the case. California, hand in hand, let's go to court. Sue them guys.
That's right. Put it to bed. Get rid of it. Kill it. Because certainly suing somebody because they don't have the right parking lot sign is not the right use of our court time, or suing somebody because they don't have a beginning date and an ending date on a check stub, even though everybody got paid and paid on time and there wasn't any problem. That's not how we should be using our court system. We should use our court system for legitimate cases, those cases that have merit and that would...
You know how I came in love with Kayla? I like the word abuse. California citizen against the law abuse. Law, the first LA, law abuse.
Right.
And that is very abusive. Very, very abusive. And also there's a very bully. We do not even know what's happening. Before we know, we're taxed already. And then we are paying already. Right? That's the thing. like I said, now that we have time to do this, right? Why don't we just go hand in hand, go to court and put those guys in jail?
It would be a legitimate case, that's for sure.
That is so legitimate that people would just go for it. Right?
That's
now,
right.
the only thing missing is the voice. Let's work together. Let's, instead of seeing every month, let's see every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Let's see each other every 2 weeks,
All
right?
right.
We'll motivate our audiences through whom we let the word out. Yeah. If we want to go to court, do the big one.
That's right.
Do the big one. 73 cents is a big chunk of money,
Yes, it is.
right?
Because over time, you're going to, over 6 months, over 3 months, you're going to
Yeah,
go,
sure.
whoa.
Right.
That's-
I do something like $200 per month. No, yeah, $200 per month. And then I will end up doing something like $250 or $260, right? And time 12 months, and you're talking about a chunk of money. And how about those people that are getting less paid than I am? They are in bigger trouble than I am, right? And who gets the money? The infrastructure, quote unquote? No, we've never seen anything on infrastructure, right? So, all right, my dear audience, today with my good friend, Marianne Maloney, we had some good time. At least we have this HR 620 to expect about. And we believe as long as we have those brains over there, things will work out. And I have about 1 minute left. I want you to let the word out to the audiences to encourage them to do your way.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I'm excited about what we just talked about this last hour, and especially this last segment, in that, yes, let's continue to mobilize the grassroots supporters, your viewers, to go to the legislators and tell them to stop the abuse, to stop shakedown lawsuits, that these laws that do nothing but say gotcha to business owners, gotcha to humane societies, children's homes, anybody has to stop, because it does cost jobs and it does cost us more money when we go and buy goods and services. So we have to stop it. We have to like the business owners that are taking out full-page ads in newspapers, we have to get more aggressive.
Yeah,
we had success in
we have some money anyway, right? Why not this way?
Right, and we had success with Prop 65. That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again. It's just going to give us more fuel to go and keep going.
All right. So my audience, thank you very much for watching. And to Marianne, thank you very much for sharing. And we'll see you again.
Thank you for all you do for Kayla.
Thank you.